So we have been talking about the road to the 14th Amendment, right? We just talked about the Memphis and New Orleans massacres of 1866. Now let's talk about the Civil Rights Act and the Reconstruction Acts of 1867, okay? Now I promise you that this is totally related to the 14th Amendment, okay? I want you to remember that all of this is following the Civil War, okay? I also want you to remember that the Republicans are the liberals and the Democrats are the conservatives, okay? Okay. Now, remember the massacres we just talked about? Yeah, those massacres helped the radical Republicans take both the House and the Senate in the midterm elections in 1866, okay? Now, the radical Republicans were the equivalent to the progressive Democrats, okay? Okay. Now, the radical Republicans, they were mad. They were heated. Because between the massacres, right, and the black codes, okay, the black codes that the southern states were passing, right? You remember the black codes, right? We talked about them earlier this year. Yeah, they were the laws that severely restricted the lives of black people. Well, between the massacres and the black codes, yeah, the radical Republicans were like, "Oh, y'all want to play? Let's play then. Let's play." So they enacted the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Now, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, it was created intentionally to override the black codes in the South. Okay? The Civil Rights Act of 1866, it declared all persons born in the United States to be citizens, without distinction of race or color or previous condition of slavery or involuntary servitude. They wanted to make it crystal clear, just in case there was any confusion. Okay? Now, Andrew Johnson, who had replaced Abraham Lincoln, who had been assassinated, Andrew Johnson vetoed the bill. Yeah. He had opinions. He did not think that Congress had the constitutional right to enact a law like this, okay? But the radical Republicans laughed in his face. Yeah, they did. And they used their 2/3 majority to override his vote. Yeah. Fun fact, as soon as this particular Congress was elected and took office, they pretty much passed laws that stripped him of any of his power. He really thought he was running something, but he was not. And the one time he tried to exert his power, yeah, they tried to impeach him. Y'all should read up on it. It was pretty interesting to me. It really was. It really was. Yeah. But back to our story. Okay. Not only did they enact the Civil Rights Act of 1866, but then they would go on to enact the Reconstruction Acts of 1867. Now, before we get into the Reconstruction Act of 1867, it's important to note that the radical Republicans refused to seat the elected congressmen from the South. Okay, they said that you have betrayed the Union. Your states have not even been accepted back into the Union. You don't get to, no, absolutely not. No. And they did not follow the reunification plan set out by Andrew Johnson. Well, because he was a punk, quite frankly. Yeah. He just told the southern states, pay your war debts, pledge loyalty to the Union, and you rebuild as you see fit. Okay. Part of the problem is that Andrew Johnson was a racist, and he did not care that the South had passed black codes. The radical Republicans cared. So they enacted the Reconstruction Act of 1867. And the act divided the South into 5 military zones. Okay? The act also required the rebel states to write a new state constitution that had to ensure the voting rights of black men. And this new constitution had to be approved by Congress. And finally, they had to approve the 14th Amendment. Now, you already know, Andrew Johnson vetoed the bill for a variety of reasons. Racist reasons, but a variety of reasons. And again, the radical Republicans laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And they overrode his veto, okay? He got mad, trashed the amendment, telling the South not to ratify the 14th Amendment, okay? Which, quite frankly, between the two of us, they really didn't want to do, okay? But the radical Republicans, they were like, y'all are so funny. That's so cute. And then they reminded the southern states that if they wanted to come back into the Union, and more importantly, if they wanted representation into Congress, they would sign on the dotted line. Yeah. So, needless to say, despite the fact that the southern states pretended to put up a fight, they signed on the dotted line, and the 14th Amendment was adopted on July 9th, 1868. Yeah. Okay. Side note. Okay. So the adoption of the 14th Amendment, that was a really good thing. And let me tell you why. Aside from the fact, right, that it granted citizenship to freed black people, right? You remember I said that Andrew Johnson questioned the constitutionality of Congress passing the Civil Rights Act of 1866, right? Yeah, some of Congress was questioning the constitutionality of it too. Yeah. So they really needed the 14th Amendment to codify the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Okay? So a lot of congressmen were more than happy to sign and ratify it. They're like, you know what? We kind of need to, codify this so that, later Congresses could not repeal or alter the main provisions of the act. Okay? So I low-key kind of feel like that was also part of why they made it a condition of rejoining the Union. I kind of feel like that's part of the reason too. But that's just me and my own personal opinion.